Hey everyone, I'm going to do a little introduction like I normally do, but I wanted to come on here first. We've got some exciting news this week, and we're going to be going all over that. We've got a couple of exciting things. As everybody probably knows, the, what the heck is that? Why did that go? Huh, that's certainly interesting. Just adjusting a few things. Let me put that up. Yeah, we're going to be talking about what's the Final Cut Pro news of the week. But first, I have to do a little bit of maintenance, as I normally do. You want to watch me do that? Let me just do that right here. And a couple places. I'm just posting to different social networks so everybody knows we're on live. I'm going to do my normal routine, my normal countdown, and then we'll come back. But I just wanted to do that for the time being. Now let me get set back up here. I will see you in a few minutes.
Sorry, the number you have reached is not in service. Please check the number or try your call again. This is a recording.
Damn telephone service. You can't depend on them for anything. Everything's going out at the same time. Hey, everybody. My name's Richard Taylor, and this is, as you all know, Final Cut TV. Today is Final Cut Friday, and if you've been paying attention to what's been going on in the Final Cut Pro universe this week, there's some interesting developments, aren't there? We are going to be getting a phone call later explaining exactly how this Final Cut Pro Beta system works in 2022, because the Final Cut Pro Beta, the beta worked the way it worked in 2021 is different in 2022, apparently. I mean, we had some things that happened this week that, well, we'll talk about it. So we're going to talk about the new version of Final Cut, the beta that we saw this week that showed that there is a new feature, two new features. One of them is dupe detection, which has been on the list for a long time. We got our first comment from our friend Marcello Ferraz. I saw him at the Creative Summit in 2018, 2018, I think it was. Maybe 2017, I don't remember. And listen, so before we get started in the main stuff, now this is the main stuff. This is what we're going to be talking about. The dupe detection and how this came about. This, I wouldn't say it was leaked, because the fact, as far as I know, the video is still up, so it wasn't leaked. We're going to talk about that specifically. Why a leaked version of a beta version of Final Cut. Cello says 2018, that's what I thought. Why a leaked version of Final Cut, beta Final Cut, was allowed. Obviously allowed by Apple. Spot Lewis says, hello from Philadelphia, good old Philadelphia, city of brotherly love on the east coast of the United States. I know exactly where it is, and I've been there before. I might be going back again, we'll have to see. So we have some things. I'm going to play this video now that I put together, a little video that we're going to see what we're talking about here. And then we're going to go through it a little bit more specifically to see exactly what's going on. So what happened was, iJustine put out a video. It's this one. I'm going to play the video in a minute, but she put out a video. She said she was on the beta of Final Cut Pro. She said it's coming out soon. And she said, here's a feature in this beta, dupe detection in Final Cut Pro 10.6.2. She did not say 10.6.2. I said 10.6.2 because that's the next version that's coming out, because Apple said there's a pre-release version on the new Studio Mac Studio page. So I'm saying 10.6.2. She just said it's the next beta, right? Yes, she did. So what is the second feature that was leaked? Let me pull up my one page and I'll show you. It's an interesting feature for sure, but it's not. Listen, they owe us features, okay? Final Cut Pro team owes us features. Let me pull it up here. Somebody else spotted this. So, voice isolation, right here. Well, didn't want to do that. voice isolation in audio enhancements is a new feature that's coming out. Now, what that does, I guess that's specifically isolates voice. This is a noise reduction, equalization, audio enhancements. So voice isolation is also a new feature that was spotted. Now, I don't think these are the only two features that are going to be there. I'm hoping that these are just 2 of 4 or 2 of 6 new features coming out in Final Cut Pro 10.6.2. Let me just check one thing real quick. Make sure it's not updated now. I don't think so. I'm not seeing it updated today, so. Because it could come out at any time. Now, there's been speculation, and I probably don't disagree with the speculation. Let me know when we can have a coffee. Absolutely. So I don't disagree with the speculation. My experience, most everybody's experience with Final Cut Pro and the team is that they're very strict about NDAs. We had to sign NDAs at the summit last time for certain things that didn't make any sense, but we had to sign them. They're very strict. I know the beta team NDA is absolutely strict, yet this video came out yesterday. It showed the beta. It openly talked about it. It showed one feature intentionally, and the other feature was spotted by some eagle eyes on Twitter or somewhere. Everyone I know with a home theater says they can't hear the darn dialogue. Voice isolation may help. It's probably voice isolation. I don't know if it's a combination of EQ or a combination of some kind of noise reduction that concentrates on the vocal range, which is the mid-range area, which is, say, 500 hertz up to about 2,500. It concentrates on that area and puts that out front and center. I don't know. Jason Williams says, is that like normalize or like a broadcast? Maybe for just working with voice. I think it has to be equalization. In order to isolate the human voice, you have to have a certain band of EQ. So when I'm talking now, I would say my voice is 100 hertz up to the majority of it, up to a couple thousand, 2,000 or 3,000 hertz. Now, when you're talking about S's, sibilants, it goes up to 10,000, 12,000 further, but that's not where the body of your voice is. So voice isolation has to work with equalization somehow. Now, whether it does that by diminishing the top and the bottom, mostly the bottom, say below 100 hertz, if it diminishes below 100 hertz or below even 200 hertz and diminishes above 5K, that would also isolate the human voice. So I've heard this. Max obviously says if no massive update to motion, then the next update will not be enough to be leading edge. I've been talking about the fact that they've ignored motion for years. Motion hasn't had anywhere close to the kind of update attention that Final Cut Pro has, but that's since 2011 and Final Cut Pro 10.0. Motion, every time motion is just like, oh, we get a couple updates here and a couple updates there. Nothing like Final Cut Pro does. Now, maybe that's fine since Final Cut Pro is an editing application. Motion is like the graphics thing. So would you say a vocal spectrum? Yes, the spectrum of the human voice is, it can go down below 100, but that's the real basey end, the low end. So just say 100 to about 2,500. That's the bulk EQ area where the human voice is. Yes, it goes above that. Yes, sibilants is up to the 10K, 12K range. Yes, but that's not the bulk of the energy of the human voice. So how they isolate it, I don't know. Noise gate threshold, I don't think noise gate. I think it's an EQ thing. Maybe noise gate with an EQ. So it would get rid of the bottom or get rid of the top, and hopefully you can adjust it. to narrow it in, because obviously a woman's voice would be a little bit higher than a man's voice, hopefully. I use isotopes and not looking for more audio help inside Final Cut. So that's interesting, because isotope doesn't work inside Final Cut. They've said it on their website, and I know some people have got it to work. It's not officially supported in Final Cut. The reason is probably because Final Cut's an NLE, and the way Final Cut handles audio is not in real time. My friend Chris Hawking said, Final Cut can render video, it can cache video, but it doesn't do that for audio. So it has to try to run it in real time as you're playing it. Isotope is not supported in Final Cut. Whether or not you can get it to work is a different issue, but it's not supported, and it's not supported for a reason, because it doesn't work properly in Final Cut. I use Isotope in Logic. It has some fantastic tools, but I've never been satisfied with its performance in Final Cut, and I don't really care whether that's Final Cut's problem or that's Isotope's problem. I don't care. The fact that it doesn't work is enough for me. Now, like I said, it works great in Logic. Logic is a digital audio workstation, so it should work in Logic. I have other tools that I work with in Final Cut. As a matter of fact, Waves. I have Waves plugin, and they just come out with a brand new plugin for voice, for noise reduction, specifically for voice. It's called Clarify. Now, I got the lower end version of Clarify. I've been experimenting with it, but they have a professional level that's $400. $400 for the plugin. So I'm not going to get that now. Oh, Eric says, no, I export out of Final Cut and work with an Isotope. Yes, that's exactly what I would do. Isotope gives you a standalone application. That's what you should do. Isotope, he says, absolutely. That's exactly what I would do. But I use Logic, and it works fine in Logic. Absolutely fine. So if I have something to do that's important, I'll export the little audio segment out, take it over to Logic or the standalone, or do the magic with it and bring it back in. But I don't use it inside of Final Cut. There's one that what's that one? Something Pop has one, audio denoise 2. It works pretty good. I don't think this is a vocal. What was it called? It's called a vocal isolation. This is not even, so vocal isolation, it has to be EQ. Now, it could be dynamic EQ. It could be some kind of a dynamic EQ. Maybe it does some kind of a print, a noise print outside the range of the person speaking, and it does something with diminishing that stuff. But anytime you get involved in these things, so this is a new feature in Final Cut Pro 10.6.2, voice isolation. We have not seen that before. And I'm very, very glad. I'm very glad that we finally get some attention inside of Final Cut audio-wise. Audio-wise. Marcello says, I've seen someone suggesting that voice isolation could have some kind of AI feature to improve vocal abilities. Yes, absolutely. So AI would be interesting. AI, I've seen some stuff with AI. I have this one program that I absolutely love. Steve Martin did a review of it right before Christmas. Topaz Video Enhanced AI, and that thing is phenomenal. I use it all the time, especially on standard def footage, because it not only denoises, and you have multiple algorithms you can choose, and there's a couple of them you can adjust. It not only denoises your footage, and it makes it always look better, it upscales it at the same time. It upscales, so I take standard def and I upscale 200%, which is 4 times the resolution, so it's much, much bigger, and it denoises that upscaled version. That does a fantastic job. Not a plugin. You got to run it on the app. It takes about 4 times real time in my experience. Doesn't make any difference. If I got older footage, if I got standard def footage, or I got some stuff that was shot in the dark, I run it through that, and it's important to me. Let it do its thing. Let it run overnight if I have to on the other screen. I can do other things. And let it do, it upscales and denoises. So it's fantastic. If they have standard def, or if you don't have to upscale. You can stay at 100%. So if you have HD footage and you like the size, but it's maybe shot, it was dark or something, and you want to get rid of the stuff in the shadows, then you could just do 100%. It won't upscale. But standard def stuff for sure. So let me play this one video, and I'll play it again a little bit later, but let's play this one video. This is what's going on, what we are talking about. Here we go. I'm going to play this. I'm going to mute my microphone while we play this.
Here's mine. This is also running a beta version of Final Cut, which is kind of exciting because you might notice these little lines right here. That is showing duplicate footage in Final Cut, which is something that will be coming out very soon.
So let's look at that a second. Beta version of Final Cut. Beta version of Final Cut. And then she goes on to say, little lines, duplicate footage. Coming out very soon. Duplicate lines, beta version of Final Cut, coming out very soon. Very, very interesting because when I first saw that, yesterday, I get texts and messages from people that want me to be aware of certain things in the Final Cut Pro community. So I started getting texts yesterday morning, and I got the first one, and then I got the second one. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Watch the video. I said, what? Beta version of Final Cut is public? Is public? So the question number one is, has the Final Cut Pro team allowed this discussion about a beta version of Final Cut? If they have changed, because prior to that, they did not allow it. So we got a comment from John. It says, I thought dupe lines were existing. No. What you're referring to is in the browser, used footage will show up with an orange line in the browser. That's been around for quite a while. If anything you have in the browser that's used in your timeline, there'll be an orange line over top of the clip in the browser. This is in the timeline itself. You don't have used footage in the timeline until this beta. Now, this has been a long time request from professional editors. This has been one of the features that have been requested from professional editors for quite a while. 2 years ago, 2019, was it 2019? 2021? Wasn't 2020? Yeah, 2019, the Final Cut Pro Summit that we go to, we have when we go to the summit, they want to give you something special. So you go to visit the Final Cut Pro location in Cupertino. So far, it's been one infinite loop. It has not been, we were supposed to go to the park last year, but that got canceled 2 weeks before the summit. So instead, we got to go to the one infinite loop again, which is fine. We get a presentation at the theater. And on Saturdays, typically we get a visitation by the team. Now, I'm not going to discuss things that went on in the visitation because that's for the people that pay to go to the Final Cut Pro Summit. But just one of the things I'm just going to mention is it's an open Q&A where you can talk to the team, and they ask for submission of questions ahead of time. And one of the things that came up was dupe detection. They said yes. This is what they said. I'm not going to reveal any state secrets here. They said, yes, we've heard that request a lot. We've heard it a lot. That's as far as it went. So they're quite aware that dupe detection is something that people have wanted. Absolutely. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we got it. We got it here. Dupe detection, Final Cut Pro 10.6.2. Now, I'm saying it's 10.6.2. She did not say it's 10.6.2. She only said it was a beta coming out soon. Now, soon, does that mean tomorrow? Does that mean today? So far, it's not today. The odds of it coming out over the weekend are very, very slim. I think I've only seen an update to Final Cut Pro on a weekend one time when they introduced, I think I'm going to say Final Cut Pro 10.4.5, which was the HD version. And I think that came out on Sunday, a Sunday night. NAB was starting on Monday morning. So I think it came out on Sunday night. Not positive. That's my memory. As we know, memories are not always accurate. So let me just pull up a closer version of that. Let me just see where did that other. There's another version. Where did I put that? That's odd. Let me go pull it up from. I have all kinds of things happening. Let me see if I get that. Yeah, there it is. Is that it? That's the timeline. Let me see if I can find that real quick. If not, we'll just go on. I had another more close-up version of that. Come on. Here we go. Is this it? No, I think it's the same. Okay. Well, that's the same thing then. I thought I had a... Well, let me tell you what. We'll zoom in. That's what we'll do. We will zoom in. Look how clever we are. Look how clever we are, zooming in. So there's some interesting things happening here. This is the new marker for dupe detection. This is hash lines. This is the timeline index. This is not the browser. This is timeline index. And then I think the clips, so you have the identification here, right? You can see it's there. You can see it's there. She's pointing it out specifically, dupe detection in Final Cut Pro. And then, let me see if I can find another clip. And then we also have those same hash lines on the clip in the timeline itself. Let me see if that's it. That is not it. That is not it. Huh. Well, there is, let me see, there is hash lines on the clips themselves. Let me see if it's in the video. Maybe it's in the video. Maybe that's where I saw it. Let me just pull that back up again. I don't see them there, but I've seen the other clips that she had, and there were hash lines in the clips in the timeline as well. That's how you identify which are which. That's how you identify which clips are duplicates. Let me just see something here real quick. Oh, there we go. There is my cat room. Mute that. This is in the front of the house. They like that space because the sun comes in that window in the morning. Cats love the sun for the most part. So we have this little cat room in our house. And there's Lucy is the cat in the foreground, the orange one. And then Luther is the gray cat that's looking through the sheer window to outside. All my wires over there. I got into cable management and I'm doing some work. If you see this, I have a sleeve for some of these cables. I have to sort those out. That's something new that I have. You really can't see that. And there's my Shuttle Pro that I really like. You know what I like about the Shuttle Pro for Final Cut? It works in the new version on my desktop. I like this jog wheel. I prefer that versus using left and right arrows or the J, K, and L keys. I like the jog wheel better. It feels better when I'm going frame by frame. I'm talking about frame by frame. So anyway, Brandon says, happy Friday. Happy Friday. The first day of spring is Sunday. Happens to be my birthday. First day of spring, March the 20th. How about that? March the 20th, first day of spring, is my birthday. So let me just pull this up. Okay, there we go. Just wanted to check on that. Let me just see. Happy Friday, absolutely. And there's a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. So we've been talking about this update to Final Cut Pro 10.6.2. We started back in February. This is not a surprise. This isn't like we have some exclusive content because it's not what it's about. Let me pull that. As well. I wanted to play this as well. This is, well, you'll see what it is. March, April are going to be the 2 months to watch out for. As far as Final Cut Pro updates. So 2022 March, 2022 April. And the reason I'm saying April is because of NAB coming up. Even if Apple's not going to be there, they put out ProRes RAW around NAB. We are going to see a new version of Final Cut Pro. Apple will do some kind of a update prior to NAB. So we've been talking about this for a long time on this show, on Final Cut TV. We've been talking about this part of this year. 10.6.2, 10.6.2. People were saying, is it 10.6.2? Is it going to be 10.7? And then Apple came out and they said 10.6.2 on the Mac Studio. There's a pre-release version of Final Cut Pro 10.6.2. So that's how we knew it was going to be 10.6.2. We've seen a preview of it. Now, the interesting thing is, Apple has been very, very restrictive on their beta program. Okay, they've been very restrictive. You're under NDA, you can't talk about it. So what the heck happened? Let's find out. Let's find out what happened. Hello? Yes, this is Richard. Yes, we are live on. I won't tell anybody who this is. I won't say anybody who this is. I won't even say if you're from Apple. Okay, I won't tell anybody. But we are live on the air, so go ahead. I have some questions today. You're going to tell me something, but I have some questions. So we saw yesterday that there was a video out that had a beta version of Final Cut Pro, and they showed us two features. Well, they showed us one, which was dupe detection, and then there's a second feature, which was voice isolation or something in the audio panel. So what happened? What is that a new Final Cut Pro team? That's a new thing that they're doing? It is or it's not? So anybody on the Final Cut Pro team, beta team, can make public announcements now. Oh, they can't. But this was allowed. If this was allowed by Apple, you're telling me that it was, that you saw it, and there's no further comment? I think it was allowed. I think it was allowed. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a note here. Okay, this is for the book. Let me just do this. Beta NDAs can be public. And features. So if you're on the beta team, you can make that public and you can show us features. That's something new. That's not been done before, right? Something brand new. So I'm going to put that in the book. I have the Final Cut Pro book over here. I'm going to put this in the book right over here. So we have that on record that now the beta, anybody on the beta team can talk about Final Cut Pro in public. You're not making that official. But that's what happened, right? As far as we know, that's what happened. It has... So we know 10.6.2 is coming out. We know that. That's not a secret. We've been expecting a new version for Final Cut. And then you had the Mac Studio and you did the little announcement and you said, this is a pre-release version of Final Cut. So there, right there, you've made a public statement, the new version of Final Cut's coming out. This little video came out and showed us a feature, one intentionally, one perhaps not intentionally, but it said it was beta, and it says it's coming out very soon. The question is, what time frame is very soon? March? It'll be out in March. That's what you're telling me. April, March, April, March, April, March, April, March. So it could be out next week. It could be out the week after, but it's definitely coming. And we know at least 2 features. So it's a feature update, which is what I've been saying all along. Okay, that's fine. I understand you're busy. You have to go. But I put the beta note in the book. This is the book of excuses for why Final Cut hasn't been updated. I'm keeping track, and that beta note is in there now and officially in there. So anyway, thank you for calling in. Feel free to call in anytime. I will not ever tell anybody who this is. Okay? Thanks for calling, Tim. Talk to you later. There we go. It's in the book. We have it in the book. Beta team is allowed to talk about features. So if I get anybody from the beta team that's on the beta team from now on, I'll say, look, you're allowed to talk. It's in the book. I have it right there. Jason says late March, early April. It could happen anytime. I mean, it could happen today. But as I've been saying, the closer it's released to NAB, the more beneficial it is for Final Cut, because the closer it's released, the more attention it'll get at NAB. At this point, I'm going to NAB. As a matter of fact, at this point, I am going to NAB. As a matter of fact, if you want to help my trip to NAB, you want to support me in any way, Final Cut Pro Radio, Final Cut this, Final Cut TV, you want to help support my trip to NAB, here's what you can do. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Richard Taylor. Now, buy 1 coffee, 2 coffee. This gentleman from Northern Ireland bought 5 coffees. Very generous of him. And yeah, buy me a coffee. Buymeacoffee.com/Richard Taylor. Let me just pull that up. I'm going to make a copy of that. Copy. There you go. Yeah. buymeacoffee.com/Richard Taylor. You can, let me just pull this up. And you can support me. That's how you can support me. What the heck? It's amazing how clunky this is sometimes. Let me just turn the background off. Maybe that'll help. Add. Buymeacoffee.com. Now I'm trying to get rid of the HTTPS. There we go. There you go. Buymeacoffee.com/Richard Taylor. Not Richard Taylor TV, just Richard Taylor. You can buy me a coffee, support my trip to NAB because I don't have sponsorship this time so far. In previous years, LumaForge sponsored my trip to NAB the last 2 or 3, but you know everything got mixed up and they got bought by OWC and then everything else happened. So I haven't talked to them about that. So Matthew says, what is dupe detection? Dupe detection lets you know if you've used frames, duplicate frames in the timeline. Now, in the browser now, you'll get an orange bar for any section that you've used from the browser into the timeline. The browser will show you this has already been used. But dupe detection is more specific. It goes, in more granular. You can use one frame, it'll show the frame. But we don't have the orange bar that we have in the browser in the timeline. We don't have that. We don't have a way to see if you're in the timeline. We don't have a way to see if clips have been duplicated. We have to see, people have already said, oh, shouldn't be there, it shouldn't be there. Let's wait and see what it is. We don't know what it is yet, right? We don't know how Final Cut's going to implement it. By the way, I want to thank the Final Cut Pro team for, first off, somebody is allowing this to be leaked. If they allowed it, it's not really a leak, is it? If they allowed this to be, well, they did because it's out there. If they allowed it, that's good. There's no reason why you can't let us know ahead of time of a feature that's coming through. A little tease like this is perfect. We appreciate it. I thought voice isolation already existed within Final Cut Pro. I thought it showed up after you analyze audio in Inspector. Am I incorrect? Not voice isolation. There's some kind of noise reduction. No, there's no voice isolation that I've ever seen. No. I have to say no to that. I think that's a new feature, voice isolation. Unless you know some secret menu that I don't know about, I don't think that's in there. So let's just watch one more time before we go. Not before we go. I'm not leaving yet. Let's just watch this video. Let me pull this up here for you. This is iJustine and what happened yesterday.
Here's mine. This is also running a beta version of Final Cut, which is kind of exciting because you might notice these little lines right here. That is showing duplicate footage in Final Cut, which is something that will be coming out very soon.
So let's go over that a second. Beta version of Final Cut. That's public. She has hundreds of thousands of viewers, tens of thousands always. Beta version of Final Cut. Duplicate footage in the timeline. So it's dupe detection in the timeline. We have to wait to see exactly how that's going to be implemented. All right now we're just seeing some hash lines. And then she says, will be coming out very soon. Very soon implies it's coming out this week, next week. Dupe detection, dupe frame detection. Yes, dupe frame detection. I mean, That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm calling it dupe detection. She said duplicate clips or whatever she said, but we'll have to see how it's implemented. Oh, snap, did she leak it? The best I can figure is that they absolutely let her leak it. Even if they're not publicly saying it, they did. Otherwise, it would have been taken down. I think it's still up. I believe that video is still up. I don't think it's been taken down. She has very close connections with Apple. She said her and Tim Cook have been on the same video after events and stuff. She's a very popular influencer on YouTube, other places. Is this something that is considered big? I never really thought about this. Hopefully there is more than just this. I agree with that. But this is something specifically that professional video editors have been requesting for a long time. At the pro level, film level, documentary level, this is a request that I've seen over and over and over and over and over again for years. So it's good that the team is paying attention to professional video editors and not just iMovie features and not just YouTube features and not just whatever. Professional editors have a very specific list of things that they want, and they will benefit everybody. The list of features from a professional video editors will trickle down through everybody. Absolutely. This is my MacBook Pro. This is the M1 Max version. This is my Stream Deck XL. This is my United Audio Apollo Twin X. There we go. Apollo Twin X. This is a Shuttle, the V2, Shuttle Pro V2 that I use all the time. Just wanted to show you my desk. Let me just see something here. All right. There we go. Back to the cat room. Now we have 3 cats. We have, in the foreground is Lucy. Next to her is Luther, the gray cat. And all the way at the end down there in the cat bed is Miss Amanda Jones. Miss Amanda Jones. We will continue our live cam outside once things start growing in the backyard. Right now it's kind of brown from the winter. It's not very, it's not, we got the bird feeder out there, but we'll be doing a garden in the back, and we'll switch it back and forth between the cat room and outside, between the two. So do you have any questions? First off, let me just say this about the Mac Studio. I think the Mac Studio is fantastic. I think it absolutely plugs a hole in the Mac computer product line. It absolutely plugs a hole. People have been asking for a better version of the Mac Mini for a long time. Is Apple listening? Yes, they are listening. The Mac Studio is a fantastic piece of hardware. It's a really nice desktop, but they're not stopping there. As fast as the Mac Studio is, they're not stopping there. First off, I've already said the Mac Pro's coming out. The Mac Pro is going to have the most advanced, the most powerful possible lineup that exists across the Mac lineup. It'll probably have the M2, the M2 Pro, the M2 Max, the M2 Ultra in the Mac Pro. I'll be curious what else it puts in there, though. PCIe slots? I'd be curious. I don't expect it to be anywhere near as big as my 2019 is, that I still have. I wonder if the M1 Max and the Mac Studio is clocked higher than the MacBook Pro since it's continuous power, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think they're probably the same, but they do the Ultra, which is 2 of the Macs. Plus, I don't think that clocking, does that work with those new Apple Silicon chips? I don't know how that works. What realistic features do you believe could be coming aside from dupe detection? So, who knows? I mean, how about movable markers? It's been a while. Let me just pull this up. It's been a while since, let me just check. I mean, I'd like to see this, some of this stuff, okay? Let me just pull this up. So this is my list. This is an ongoing list I've had. Of course, a scrolling timeline. That's been the number one request for a long time from a lot of people. Everything has a scrolling timeline except for Final Cut. Logic has it, Motion has it, Avid has it, Premiere has it, Resolve has it. They all have scrolling timelines except for Final Cut. Final Cut is by itself. So, but besides that, pro audio features. I'd like to see an audio mixer of whatever they're going to do with master roles and stuff, volume control. We don't have a volume control after all these years in Final Cut. There's no master volume control. 11 years and there's no master volume control. So I'd like to see Project Live scrubbing in the browser. Right now, you cannot scrub a project in the browser. You can scrub a multicam, you can scrub a compound clip, you can scrub individual clips, but you cannot scrub a project in the browser. Like to see that. True round-tripping integration, better integration with Motion. So a clip logger. When you're looking at clips in the browser, the timeline's not doing anything. It's empty space, doesn't do anything. I'd like to see a mode that you can turn on that when you click on a clip in the browser, it shows up in the timeline automatically. Don't have to double click it or anything else. I like using the timeline a lot more than using the browser. I just like it better. It's more sophisticated. I can zoom in and out. So I'd like to click on a clip in the browser, do things to it in the timeline. It would be called a clip logger because it's not part of your timeline, a clip logger. And you can log clips back to the clip that's selected in the browser. You can set markers. You can set ranges. You can do zoom in and out. You can do whatever you want to do. And then whatever you do in that timeline, in that clip logger, would be reflected on a clip back in the browser. I've seen that for a long time. Better get a dedicated keyframe editor. I've been saying that the keyframe editor in Final Cut Pro is like keyframing on an Etch-a-Sketch. Clipboard manager with history to remember, copied and pasted clips for reuse. BRAW support. Who wants BRAW support? Look at this. Browser improvements. Look at this. More distinctive and accurate playhead locators. Scrubbable projects like we just talked about. Master file. So, for example, 5 clicks to make a default share destination. Right now, it takes 5 clicks. I like to see 1 click, right click when you do save current frame, default should be right there, 1 click. Right now, it takes 5 clicks to set the default share destination. That's ridiculous. Adjustable secondary and primary storyline parameters in the inspector. Right now, if you select a storyline or you select the timeline, there's no parameters. You can't adjust it. I like to be able to mute either the secondary storyline or the primary storyline. You click on it and you can mute it. You can just whatever. You can't do that now. You can only select individual clips. You can only select individual clips inside of a secondary storyline. I want parameters for the secondary storyline and for the primary storyline, independent of the clips. Just a couple more comments. Tyler says, with 10.6.2 on the horizon for this or next month, do you foresee any other notable change at WWDC in June? So in WWDC, I think if the Mac Pro is coming out in 2022, I think probably it's coming out in 2023. But if it's coming out in 2022 by some surprise, they will very, very likely introduce it at WWDC because they did that for the trash can. Remember when he said, can't innovate anymore, my ass? That was at WWDC. They did it in 2017 for the iMac Pro. They introduced it at WWDC. They did it in 2019 for the Mac Pro. They introduced it at WWDC. Now, in all those cases, the product didn't ship until 6 months later, but they introduced it at WWDC. So if the Mac Pro is coming out in 2022, I think probably 2023, they will show it at WWDC, introduce us to it. So here's something else I want to talk about. Let me see where that is. Speaking of that, people have been saying, where is that? Oh, here we go. People have been saying, you know, Apple's a little tricky in their wording of things. Remember when Steve Jobs, he picked up an iPhone or an iPod. People were talking about a video iPod. And Jobs goes, who wants to watch a video on a small screen? He didn't say they weren't working on one. He says, look over here. Look over here. Who wants to watch a video on a small screen? That's what he said. And then, of course, a year or so later, they had a video iPod. So he didn't say he wasn't working on it. Same thing with the iMac. Right now, the iMac is an M1 chip, and it's 24 inches big. It's not going to stay that way. The iMac is not going to stay at 24 inches, and it's not going to stay with the M1. It's not going to be stuck there. Of course, they're going to improve it. So I would not be surprised to see an M2 version of the iMac. Some people have said an M2 Pro version of the iMac Pro, perhaps in 2022. So Apple has a fall Mac event in the fall, October, November. They have a fall Mac event. I expect a new Mac Mini with the M2 chip, maybe the M2 Pro. And I expect MacBook Air, perhaps, but also an update possibly to the iMac line. Now, the iMac will only be 18 months old at that point because it was introduced in the spring. So if they don't show us the new iMac in the fall for the fall Mac event, it'll probably come out the following spring, the new version. But I think the M2 chip is ready for some of these, you know, the entry-level M2 chip, not the Pro, not the Max, and not the Ultra, but the M2 version. Now, if they've sped things up and the Mac Pro is going to be ready with M2 chips, there's no sense in releasing the Mac Pro with M1s. Okay, that would be ridiculous. I wouldn't buy that. I'm not really in the market for the Mac Pro anyway, but I could be tempted. M2 chips for the Mac Pro, M2 Pro, M2 Max, M2 Ultra, whatever they're going to do. But they'll introduce new Macs for the fall event in the fall, right before Christmas. That's when they do it. Could be the new iMac. It could be the iMac Pro, but I wanted to show you this. So this is John Gurman and also John Prosser. Both people, these are Apple pundits who comment a lot of times about what Apple's got coming out. He says, of course, an iMac Pro is coming, regardless of what Apple said at their event. They didn't say an iMac Pro is not coming. They said something about something nebulous, the way Steve Jobs said the same thing about the video iPod. They said, well, we're not working on it right now, whatever. But they didn't say that it's never going to be out. So I say an iMac Pro is coming, or a larger version of the iMac, 27-inch version with the M2 chips. There's no sense in putting out two versions of the iMac, both with the M1. The M1 has 2 Thunderbolt ports. Come on. I can't deal with that. But anyway, the 27, I think they're going to introduce a new version, a bigger version, not a new version, but a bigger version of the iMac. They're not going to abandon it. It'll be stuck at 27. They already have the 27-inch screen already for the studio display, the display studio, whatever the heck they call it. So, and they could even go larger. They could go to a 32-inch iMac for a better one. So will that be called the iMac Pro? I don't know, but it'll probably, if they go that big, they'll probably have the M2 Max chip in there, don't you think? Ripple trainings, Final Cut, and Motion trainings are 15% off. Maybe that's an indicator of bigger update on the horizon. Well, here's what I think. I think we will get 10.6.2, as I talked about for the month, 2 months, March, April. So we're at the middle of March. So between now and the end of March or the beginning of April, we're going to get 10.6.2 with features. We've already seen the features previewed. Now, I'm saying 10.6.2 based on what Apple said on their website for the Mac Studio. They said a pre-release version of Final Cut Pro 10.6.2. They said it. So since they said 10.6.2, I'm saying it's probably not 10.7. A bigger update on the horizon? Yeah, the bigger update will be next fall. They introduced 10.5 in the fall with the new M1 Max. They introduced 10.6 in the fall with the new MacBook Pro. I expect them to introduce 10.7 in the fall with whatever new hardware they got. They're not going to update the Mac Studio, but they might update the Mac Mini to be like below the Mac Studio, but still, it's a nice viable product that can run Final Cut and Logic and things, lower price point. So I expect 10.7 to come out in the fall if they follow suit to what they've done for the last 2 years. That's exactly what I expect. Timeline browser that functions like the timeline, but in its own space HUD. So like a compound clip button. No, what I'm talking about is a clip logger. So you click on a clip. This would be set in preferences. You click on a clip in the browser, and that clip opens up into its own timeline. It's more sophisticated than stretching the browser out. And you can zoom in and stuff, but I'd rather have the timeline all the way across the screen where I can set markers, I can select ranges and do other things. I'd rather use the entire timeline. I prefer the timeline for doing stuff like that. So you click on a clip, it opens in the timeline. Click on another clip, it opens in the timeline. I'm saying timeline, but it's not the timeline. It's a clip logger specifically. You're not messing with your timeline. It just opens without you doing any other action. It's like a live scrubber. You click on a clip or you hover over a clip, and if the mode is set, and would open up in its own clip logging timeline, not part of your main timeline. Or an improvement on audio when you zoom in, the audio waves don't go away with some and then come back. So that's a caching issue. This is one of the problems with the scrolling timeline. How do you do a scrolling timeline and keep the waveforms updated real time? Here's my solution for that. Give me the ability to turn the waveforms off. Give me the ability, or freeze them so they don't update line, and then give me a scrolling timeline so the timeline playhead does not scroll off the edge of the screen. Where's my playhead? I don't know. It's off the edge of the screen. It's over here. It's over here somewhere. Somewhere over here. It scrolled off the edge of the screen. I have no idea where the playhead is. No idea. That doesn't make any sense in any way. It's the only NLE that doesn't have a scrolling timeline. But I understand if it's a performance issue. Here's the thing. The scrolling timeline's been in Final Cut since version 1. They just never turned it on yet. So it's there. It's just not been turned on. I truly desire a touchscreen iMac with a monitor that allows to swivel, and a Wacom-like monitor, basically a massive iPad. Use Apple Pencil. That would be very cool to use Apple Pencil on a screen. I like the Apple Pencil a lot. Do you know how big a team of developers Apple has for Final Cut? I don't know. But dozens of people. I think they borrow people as they need them. I think they borrow from this team, borrow from that team. When Final Cut's not busy, they take them and put them on iPhones. Who the heck knows? I'll tell you this, that one television thing, that time they visited Apple campus, was it Charlie Rose or somebody like that? They visited the iPhone production facility. Everything was covered up with black cloths. They said they had 600 or 700 people just working on the iPhone camera. 600 to 700 just working on the iPhone camera. Can we get a few dozen, maybe more, for the Final Cut Pro team? Now, my friend Philip Hodgett says there's an optimal number of people above which, for any project, above which you don't get your return on investment for these things. So can you do 5,000 Final Cut Pro team? No, that would be a big mess. But maybe just give them whatever they want. Give the team whatever they need resources-wise. Anyway, to answer your question, I don't know specifically. It's certainly dozens. Thank you for the clarification. What's the difference between a compound clip via a sync clip in regards to editing? Compound clip is more than one clip. Compound clip can be 2, 3, 4, 5 clips, titles, and everything else. Sync clip is just syncing video and audio, right? So usually it's one video clip syncing it to audio. Compound clip, you can have multiple. You can have titles in there. You can have audio in there. You can have other clips in there. And the compound clip goes vertically in the timeline. Vertically. Can you make a compound clip in the timeline? Or am I imagining that? Yeah. Yeah, right. You can make a compound clip in the timeline, sure. You select a bunch of things. You lasso a title, lasso 2 or 3 clips in audio, and then hit Option G, and it makes a compound clip. Yes. So a compound clip goes vertically and horizontally. A storyline only goes horizontally in one horizontal strata. You can't go above and below it and put clips in a storyline. Compound clip, you can do that. A sync clip, on the other hand, is usually one video track and 1 or 2 or more audio tracks you're trying to sync up. And then, of course, a multicam, you can have multiple clips and stuff. But you can't scrub a project in the browser to this day. You can only scrub compound clip, multicam clip, and a regular clip in the browser, but not a project. So what do you think? Are you excited about 10.6.2? Do you think we're only going to get 2 features? I don't. My expectations for Final Cut Pro going forward are not as high as they've been in the past. I used to have very, very high expectations for the Final Cut Pro updates in the Final Cut Pro team. It's way down here in the middle somewhere now. Bring it back up for me. Surprises. Give us 6 good features, 8 good features in 10.6.2. That would be fantastic. I don't mind it getting back up to where it used to be, but it hasn't been that exciting for the last few years because it's just been not that much going on. There we go. Sorry about that. I clicked the button that I shouldn't have clicked, and my audio was cut off. Now I'm watching my monitor. So one of the things people talk about, let me just check this. So people talk about the iMac and the 24-inch iMac, and there's not going to be a 27-inch iMac. I don't like the aspect ratio of the iMac, to be honest with you. I like my aspect ratio. This is my screen. So it's much wider and longer than the iMac, than a 27-inch, which is more rectangular, more square. This is 34-inch, 34-inch LG ultra wide. Instead of a 16:9 aspect ratio, it's a 21:9 aspect ratio. I like this better. Like when I'm editing in Final Cut Pro, I have a nice long timeline I can work with, or in Logic, either one. So I like this aspect ratio a lot better than the aspect ratio of the iMac or the XD display. I like this aspect ratio better for me. Now I also have another monitor to the side over there. Turn this off. I have another monitor. So I have this long aspect ratio LG monitor, ultra wide, and I also have another monitor to the side that I take things off and put them over there. All right. I think what do you think? You want to watch that video one more time? Let's pull that up for people that didn't catch it the first time. Let me pull this up. This is the iJustine video where she introduces a beta version of Final Cut and shows us a feature that's coming out.
Here's mine. This is also running a beta version of Final Cut, which is kind of exciting because you might notice these little lines right here. That is showing duplicate footage in Final Cut, which is something that will be coming out very soon.
Something that will be coming out very soon. So I'm hoping very soon means anytime. Next week, the week after. Now, if Apple did indeed allow her to do this, which I'm pretty sure they did because otherwise the video wouldn't be up, maybe that means here's a couple of features for this new version of Final Cut, but it's not coming out for a little bit later, and maybe April. They announced iMovie, update to iMovie, and they specifically said it's coming out in April. So maybe they gave us here's a little tidbit for you to tie you over until it comes out in April. Now, I've been saying since February, I have no idea when it's going to come out, but it makes sense to me to release it close to NAB. You release it close, to NAB, you get buzz at NAB. People are talking about Final Cut at NAB without you even being there. Now, I'm not sure if the Final Cut Pro team will be there. They've been there every time I've been there. It's 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. They've been there every year. They presented in 2017 and 2018. They did not present in 2019. Oh, they did present in 2019. They presented on the Faster Together stage. That's where they presented. So they've been there 2017, 2018, and 2019 publicly as Apple, as the Final Cut Pro team. In this, 2019 was not in the convention center. It was at the Super Meet Hall, whatever. So, speaking of the Super Meet is happening. It's Monday night now, right? Originally, I think they said it was Sunday, possibly Sunday. Now, I think it's Monday night. Super Meet. The Super Meet is happening Monday night. We're going to have Dan Berube on when he has some things to announce as far as scheduling and stuff. We will have him back on. Let me just see something here. There is our cat room again. We got 3 sleeping cats. Three sleeping cats in the cat room. So we have another question. Will the Final Cut update work on Mac Pro 2012 and before, or will they only work on the newest Mac for the M1s? No, it will work on some Intel Macs, absolutely. It may not have all the features. It may not have all the features that the M1 provides. We're going to see that going forward. We're going to see that going forward. You're not going to have all the features that the M1 Apple Silicon provides with some of the features. Logic said that. No, Logic said Monterey was required for some of their features. They didn't say that the M1 was required. So we'll see going forward. It'll be fine. We have another year or two with Intel machines, absolutely. And then they'll transition away applications. The OS is good for another 18 months at this point for Intel, at least. They didn't say specifically. They said for several years they're going to support the Intel version of Mac OS is going to support the Intel version. So if they introduce a new version in June, that'll be the second year. That version comes out in September, and then the next year will be that version. So we have another 18 months at least for Intel versions of Mac OS. Right? Yes, we do. Similar to Intel and PowerPC, you foresee Final Cut Pro accelerating performance once they stop supporting Intel. Well, it's already accelerating, isn't it? If you use the Apple Silicon, I mean, we've already seen that. And look, Apple controls the OS, they control the application, they control the hardware, but now even more specifically, they control the hardware with their own chips. How can it not be phenomenal speed and performance? Of course it is. It's going to just continue. Eventually, you'll be getting an M1, an Apple Silicon chip. You don't necessarily need it right now. I expect Final Cut Pro will be supported on Intel, the new versions on Intel for a year or two. Absolutely. But Apple Silicon may have very specific features. All right. So anyway, all you lucky dogs that got one of the Mac Studios, that's fantastic. It looks like a fantastic piece of hardware. I said it's like a pure block of Mac horsepower in that thing. It looks really, really cool. But they're not going to stop developing the iMac. It's not going to be stuck at 24 inches with M1s. It's going to get the M2, M2 Pro, and a bigger screen. I'm saying they're going to have a bigger screen. Whether they call it the iMac Pro or just the Pro iMac or whatever they want to call it, it's fine. But it's not going to be stuck at 24 inches. Which one of you goes out and buys a new display, a 24-inch new display in 2022? Would you even look at a 24-inch display? I wouldn't. My secondary screen is 27 or 29 inches, my secondary screen. So 24 is too small. It's too small. It was good a year ago when it came out. It was the first one. It had the M1 chip. That's fine. Let's go. To me, it took place of the 21-inch. The 24-inch took place of the 21-inch iMac. It doesn't take place of the 27-inch iMac. That's my opinion. But of course, they're going to introduce a new iMac at some point. Look forward to the fall. But the main thing is look forward to this 10.6.2 update. When it comes out, I will get back on the air as I always do. You can check right over here, Richard Taylor TV. And on YouTube, right there, Richard Taylor TV, youtube.com. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, the same thing. And Ernest White says, nope, he's not going to look at a 24-inch display. Nobody. Who does that? And displays are so cheap, you're going to go for 32 or 34. I'm even looking at when I have to replace this LG monitor, I'm going to get a bigger one. And just get rid of the side monitor, get a bigger one. Now, I don't look at the whole thing. You're going to get whiplash. But the main screen is here, And then I put things to the side that I maybe don't want on the main screen over there. And I use different desktop. Ernest says maybe a 32-inch iMac. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they could increase it. We'll have to see. Have to see how it goes. But anyway, everybody who's got... Tyler says, studio display is not HDR. Everyone save your money. I've heard people like the studio display. Other people don't like the studio display. I've heard both. Look, this is my audio setup. This is my audio setup down there. I'm using all this stuff in real time. Compressors and limiters, couple compressors. This channel strip right here. And this is a noise gate up here. This is the first compressor. This is the EQ. I can switch the EQ to this one or to this one. I like this one better personally. It's parametric. And then this is an old LA2A limiter, Teletronics, a compressor limiter. And this is a brick wall limiter that I have. So I don't overmodulate if I get excited. This is my audio setup. And it's all run by this. This runs all that software in near real time. So when I'm talking to you, it's being processed by this box, not by my computer. This is a Apollo Twin X, which I really, really like. So what do you think? Are you excited about Final Cut Pro 10.6.2? Can you say thank you, Final Cut Pro team, even though we don't have it yet? I think we're going to get more than just those two features that have been previewed. Dupe detection's got to be a big one, the way they're working that. So let's see what happens. But there's two new features. I'm glad we're finally getting some features. We haven't 10.6.1 came out 5 months ago, 4 months ago. Nothing since then. Nothing in January, February, or December. And now we're getting to March, getting close to NAB. And if they don't release it in March, they're approaching the NAB territory just because it gives them more, Final Cut Pro more publicity. All right, everyone, I'm going to get out of here for today. What time is it? Oh, it's 3:25. I appreciate everybody stopping by today. And once again, if you subscribe over there, Richard Taylor TV, YouTube, Facebook, you'll be notified whenever we go live, and I will be back live when 10.6.2 comes out. I'll be back live within an hour or two, and you gals can come on and talk about it, make your comments. I publish your comments. That's one of the things that I do. Right? Yes, I do. Let me just check on something. Yep, everybody's sleeping in the cat room. Everybody is sleeping in the cat room. And I think we're going to be getting out of here for today. I think I'm just about done. Let me just pull this up real quick. So somebody asked about, I think it was Roz. She asked about the RAID that I got, and this is the one that I got. I got the OWC Thunderbolt Flex 8. Now, they're not paying me. Maybe they'll support me for going to NAB. But they're not paying me. But this is the one that I got. I got eight terabyte drives, hard drives. So I have 64 raw in this thing. And once it's configured as a RAID 5, it's down to 56 terabytes. I still have in the 40s. I have 40-some terabytes that I'm not using. But this is the one that I ended up getting. I was looking at the Promise and this one, and the Promise was more expensive for less storage. So I went with this one, and I'm satisfied so far. As a matter of fact, it's running right now. You probably can't even hear it. It's under my desk. Any more comments before we get out of here for today? once again, we had the announcement of not the announcement. We had the I started getting PM's messages yesterday morning about, hey, go look at this video. They showed the version of Final Cut that's not out yet. They showed the beta version. I said, okay, that's what we did. Let me see what else we have here. I think that's just about it. This is one of the features that we have. One of the new features, voice isolation, and then the amount slider. I don't see any other sophisticated controls there, but that's what we have right now. So I'm going to head out. What is today? Friday, right? 72 degrees here on the East Coast. Spring is Sunday. My birthday is Sunday. First day of spring. That's when I was born. Looking forward. Dominic says, I missed this live. Will it stay up to watch later? Absolutely. Absolutely. All the Final Cut TV lives are up. Just go to my YouTube channel, Richard Taylor TV. Go to my YouTube channel, and they're all there. And if you want to support me, buymeacoffee.com, Richard Taylor. That's where you can go to support me. So, yes, they will all be there. They were all there, all of them. You can watch them back from as far as you want to go. And we're going to have a couple of them in, I'm presuming, end of March, beginning of April. We're going to have NAB specific. Once again, if Final Cut Pro is released, 10.6.2, when it's released, unless it's an unusual circumstance, I will be back on the air live within an hour or two. And we'll come back and we'll talk about it. We'll digest it and dissect it and see what's in the new update. But we know it's got dupe detection. We know it's got voice isolation. Ernest says, happy birthday. Have a blessed day. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. I think we're going to get out of here for today. What do you think? Any more comments before we go? Why don't a couple of you say thanks to the Final Cut Pro team, and I'll put it up on the screen before we get out of here. We did have a call from Apple earlier that we talked about the beta situation and why they allowed that to happen this time. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. As we get closer to NAB, I'm going to start playing some clips from the prior NAB, starting with 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. I've been filming behind-the-scenes things at NAB for the last 4 years. Here we go. Thank you, Final Cut Pro team, from Dominic Carter. Thank you. Yes, thank the Final Cut Pro team. We really like you guys and gals. Really like you guys and gals. We appreciate all the work that you do, and we want lots of features, so don't forget that. Don't forget us. Dupe detection is one. Dupe detection is one that's been requested for a long, I probably the whole time, probably since 2011. Thanks, Final Cut Pro team. You didn't forget us. That's absolutely correct. You did not forget us. So even if my expectations are not as high as they were, it doesn't mean I give up. I'm still a Final Cut Pro person, and I still have confidence that they will give us some good features. And I'm right about here, so I can be lifted up, back up here, where I used to be. That's fine. Nathan McAvoy says, I appreciate them letting a beta be seen out in the wild. Absolutely. There's no reason why you can't give us a little hint like that before something's coming out. Create a little buzz. Create a little buzz for NAB. That's what I want. If you release it as you get it ready and it gets closer and closer to NAB. They introduced 10.4.1 at NAB, the Monday of NAB when it started, and they introduced ProRes RAW at NAB. 2018, I believe. It was 2018. So I introduced both of those at NAB, both of those features, ProRes RAW and a new version of Final Cut 10.4.1 at NAB. I don't expect them to wait to NAB for 10.6.2, but the closer they get to NAB, the more beneficial it's going to be. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Final Cut Pro team. Subscribe over there at Richard Taylor TV, youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. And if you want to support me, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com, Richard Taylor. I'm going to use the initial amount that I get to buy coffee is going to NAB, but I also have other expenses, lots of other expenses, thousands of dollars a year expenses to do these live streams, buying equipment, keeping up with the latest information and stuff. So it's not just coffee, but that's a place where you can support me, buymeacoffee.com, Richard Taylor. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Once again, you are the best audience in the world for Final Cut Pro. We'll be back whenever there's Final Cut Pro breaking news.